Welcome, Christian Warriors. We got a Muslim man that comes into a Catholic church and throws down his prayer rug and just starts praying in the middle of the church service. This happened in France. Let's just take a look at it just for a minute.
Allahu Akbar. Merci mon père. Merci.
Okay, so the big question is, what do you do when somebody comes in and does something similar and disrupts your service? Here they did nothing, and that is not an option. You're going to have to do something because obviously the church members are disturbed. They are obviously uncomfortable when this is occurring, and also you don't know what the man's going to do. Is he building up courage and praying to Allah to get courage to hurt people? You just don't know. And so this is why we have church security teams, right? We're going to go up and we're going to contact them. Now, look, first we have to talk about the legal foundation. Everything you should do should be based on the Bible, and it should also be based on a legal foundation so you don't get thrown in jail. Now, look, there are state laws on disrupting a religious service. Not every state has one. Where I live in Idaho, we don't have a law that specifically dictates this, but we can trespass them, and that would be the easiest way to go. So as an example, I have a large following in California. You have Penal Code 302. I've used this before and have arrested people for this before, and it's disturbing religious meetings. In Texas, you have Penal Code 42.05, and that is disrupting meetings or processions. Florida, you have Statute 871.01, is disturbing lawful assemblies of people met for worship. New York has Penal Law 240.21, disrupting or disturbing a religious service. Now, look, we're not going to go over every single one individually, but just know that for your state, you should probably look it up and see, do I have a law for disrupting a service? But it's important because you've established they are committing a crime. So here, this happened in France, but I'm showing it because I think it's applicable to all of us. We want to lay down a foundation of the law so that if that person does something where we have to put hands on them, then we know that they could be arrested later on. And we're going to talk about citizens arrests here in a minute. But if you don't have that law, like we don't have that in Idaho, you simply just go up and go, hey, you're disrupting our meeting, you need to leave. And when they refuse, you tell them, you're being trespassed. You are trespassing. You need to leave now. And you've laid out that you now have a trespass offense. That would be a good way of doing it. But again, look at your state law to see what's applicable to you. You can always ask your friendly police officer what laws may apply. Now, citizens arrest laws, they vary by state. When a citizen's arrest may legally apply is only for felony and misdemeanor committed in their presence. You have some risks that go with that, like liability, mistaken authority, excessive force issues. It should be used as a last resort. You want the police making that arrest. I don't recommend doing a citizen's arrest. I did a whole article over at Christian Warrior Training on citizens arrests. I actually did a podcast on it where I talk about it. I would do it as a last resort. Here, I would tell them to leave. And of course, that all starts with your initial approach to him and your initial assessment. Does he look like he's armed? Does it look like he's unarmed? Is he calm? Is he agitated? And you want to approach and you want to be calm. You want to have a visible presence. You want to have clear command. So I would walk up and say, church security, sir, you need to stop. It's time to leave. You've asserted your authority. You've let them know you have authority from the church to deal with this. You're giving him clear commands. You told him to leave. Now, if he escalates and refuses to leave, of course, you're going to call 911 and you want to let them know we have a person disrupting our church service. I would recommend here, he says Allah Akbar right off the bat.
Allahu Akbar.
It is a normal prayer. But if you want to get the cops rolling, then you tell him he just yelled out Allahu Akbar, and you will get every cop screaming over there because they are all worried about that person harming people within the church. Now, it's up to you if you want to go hands-on and you want to remove them. I feel comfortable saying, sir, church security, you're interrupting our service. You have to leave right now. If he refuses, I feel comfortable in my church with my state laws, in my training and experience to grab that person if they refuse and say, let's go. And I'm going to guide them. Cops often use something called ATM. Ask, tell, make. ATM is super easy to remember. So first you're going to ask, you're just going to say, sir, can you please leave? He refuses. So now you're going to tell him, sir, you're leaving now, whether you like it or not. time to go. If he refuses, pull him out. If he resists your authority, then use force to overcome that. You should head over to Christian Warrior Training and take my use of force class, where I lay out how to use force appropriately, and then you remove them. But you have to make sure that your church has training, that you have trained in this, not just in dealing with disruptive people, but with arrest control tactics or any kind of physical tactics that you might use to go ahead and remove them. All right, now let's talk about your live stream. Now, most churches live stream events. I recommend that you have some kind of a delay on there. It doesn't have to be long, just a minute or two, so that something happens that you can kind of rewind a little bit and make sure that's not seen, because they may know that you're live streaming this and there is somebody screen capturing everything, so they can use it in a TikTok video later to embarrass the church, to inflame Muslims against Christians or something like that. And so you want to cut that live stream, but you want to keep recording because you want that to continue for evidence for the crime later for law enforcement, so they can prosecute that case appropriately. Now, I would recommend that you assign a person, if available, to record the event so they can hear you doing your ATM, ask, tell, make. So that way it shows that, look, man, I gave him 3 chances and he refused everything, and he is disrupting the service. He did commit a crime. We want him out of there. Now, of course, with everything I tell you, always make sure that you talk to your church elders, you talk to your pastor, you talk to your church attorney to make sure that you are all good to go. And most importantly, have a policy, right? You have to have training and policy for your church on what you're going to do with this specific type of case. All right. Now, look, my final thoughts: security's role is to protect worshipers and not to escalate an incident. But it takes 2 people to de-escalate. If you want to escalate and you provide that off-ramp and they don't take it, then you're not going to de-escalate. But I do want to take time to remind you that you need to prepare so that if something like this happens at your church, you can go ahead and take good, decisive action that makes your church look good, and it makes your parishioners, your congregants, feel very comfortable with the actions that you're taking. I encourage you to leave here and know the laws for your state, what you can and can't do. And then again, practice, and then practice some more, even more. When you leave here, I want you to pray for all of our churches, that they have good discernment, good policy making, that they are able to fend off these people that are trying to disrupt our churches. And I want you to remember your ABCs: always be caring.